Okay, so let's get to know Davinci Resolve. If you don't have a copy already running on your system, you can get it here at the Pro Member Downloads. Just click this link, it says download your free copy of Davinci Resolve Lite. It will take you to this page. Choose your operating system, select the, select the Davinci Resolve. Select the product, Davinci Resolve Lite, and it will take you to this page, and you'll find your installers, you'll find the configuration. Here's the installer right here. Download it and install it, and then when you do that, it pops up. It looks like this. And it goes to a screen that looks something like this. You just log in with your password. You'll have to set that up, by the way. You can see I've already got some projects loaded up here, and there's the default project, which you open it up is completely blank. Okay, so it opens up to this, and first thing you should know is that Davinci works left to right. And what I mean by that is if you look down here, you've got media, conform, color, gallery, and deliver. And the way that works is you bring in your media through the media panel. You conform it with the conform panel, you grade it in the color panel, and you deliver with the deliver panel. Gallery is for something else. That's how you manage your presets and plugins and your power grades, and something that we'll refer to a little bit later. But so just to walk you through, totally blank. It looks like this. Conform panel. Obviously, there's no media in here. This is a nonlinear editor right here, an NLE. That you can use to sort of trim up your footage and sort of fix some things that maybe went wrong when you brought it in. Or if you're doing dailies, you can edit them in here. This is the color panel. This is where all of your you have your curves, your secondary color correction, your masks, tracking, blur, key like opacity. This is your sizing. Stereoscopic, obviously we don't have any options for that. We don't have any stereoscopic footage, but that would be 3D. And then here is your burn-in. This is if you want to do a watermark, or if you want to put time code or anything burned onto the screen, burned out or created in Davinci itself. You can do that here. Here you can mess with your camera raw settings, like if it's RE or Blackmagic, etc. You can interpret that. You can have some interpretation settings here. I'm going backwards here. This is your channel mixer. You have control over the red, green, and blue channels independently. Here's your primaries. Lift for shadows, gamma for the midtones, gain for the highlights, and the offset for the overall color, as well as saturation, hue, and luminance. And then here are your three ways. You have your three-way color wheel, lift, gamma, and gain. This is pretty much works just like Final Cut or any other three-way color corrector. And you got a four-way, which is your log, which is shadow, midtone, highlight, and offset. So if you've worked in Color Finesse, you've seen this. This is like your basic setup in Color Finesse. This is basically your hue offsets. And it operates a little bit differently. I actually use this more than I use the three-way color corrector. This and all the different versions of curves. And that's basically all the stuff that you're going to be messing with on top of your gears, which will come up in the node window over here. This is the gallery section, or the gallery panel. And here is where you manage all of your looks. These are all the looks that come pre-packaged with Davinci. You also have stills and power grades. And stills is kind of a misleading term, but when I finally do cover it, you'll understand why they're called stills. But basically it allows you to, with power grades and stills, it enables you to share your settings and your grades with other people. And we'll cover that a little bit later. And then of course the delivery panel. And here's where you bring in your timeline, and you go through all the settings, your render settings, and then here's the render queue for all the jobs that you'll have set up to render, and you have a preview window so you can see what it looks like. So that's the basic overview. Let's bring in some footage so we can kind of walk through the whole process. Let's go to, you just untwirl this. Let's go down to the shootout that we did. Let's grab the GH2 footage. And I'm just gonna select this, and there's different ways you can select stuff. You have in all of these panels you have, except for this one, you can right click and you have a drop down menu. In your media pool you also have a drop down menu. I can select these individually if I wish. I can select them by clicking and holding shift and selecting a range. I can shift or click and hold command and select intermittently, command or control if you're on a PC, or I can hit command A and select everything and just drag it into the media pool, and now Davinci can now read this information. So now that I've got clips here in Davinci in the media pool, I'm going to move to conform, and here in conform, now my media is here. It's also on my timeline here in the NLE. And from here you have a full range of editing tools. Basically you would use this if you brought in an EDL or an XML and like certain transitions or fades or stuff came in wrong, or if the wrong footage came in, you could fix that here. But mostly you just use this to do dailies with. But now that I have a timeline, I can move on to the color panel, and here's my footage. You can see I have each clip in here. Can adjust them individually, and you have the node window. So the basic layout here is we covered all of your color controls here. This is your keyframe window. You can actually also use this to kind of scrub the footage and like a playhead, which will just only deal with the footage itself. You don't have to worry about it playing too far or moving into another clip. And then you can do your grading over here with nodes. This is your gallery. This is where all of your stills that you would have managed, you would go over here to the gallery, and let's say I don't have anything plugged in right now, but let's say I wanted to plug that in, and maybe that, and some of this, and bleach bypass, and black and white, and the power grade. You can put that in there, and then go back to color, and you'd see now that's all populated here. I have access to it, as well as I don't have any stills right now, but I have this power grade here, which if I wanted to, I could grab and add correction, and it adds it, and it applies it to the footage. It's not really the look that I want for this footage, but it is a look. And I can undo that. I can right click here and say reset all grades and nodes. It'll go back to normal. I can do a correction here if I like. I can ungang these. Let's just do a curves adjustment, and maybe add a node by hitting Option S, or I think it's Alt S on the PC. And let's go into color gear here and grab a spectral enhancer. And let's go to the key and maybe mix that down because it's a little heavy. And this is noisy all eye footage. So there's that. If I wanted to append this, I could before this node, I could say add a serial node before current. It puts one in between. And maybe I would want to go in and play with the color a little bit. Maybe add a tone monster, like maybe green. And that's a little much, so I want to mix it down. Just grab the opacity, drag it down. In fact, I want to change that. I want to go from this to Tony Scott. There we go. But let's say this was my grade. This is what I wanted to do with the footage. I could grab a still. I'd right click here, grab a still. It shows up here in power grades, or I could do it here in stills. Grab still. It comes up here. And then I could apply that to this footage here. I could just right click it and say add correction. It adds it. See, that looks pretty nice. And then I could scrub it, kind of see what it looks like. And I really like this for this footage, but not so much for the blue stuff. So maybe I want to remember how this looks. So this is why it's called stills. Is it takes a still, I grab a still, boom, and I can see this and I go, oh, I know what that grade is. But also, if I go to the gallery here, I can right-click this, and I can export it. I can export it as a power grade, or from the color window, I can right-click this footage and export it as a 3D LUT. And we'll cover all this more in depth later on. But let's say I've got my grade finished. In fact, let me select all, and I'm going to apply correction. So now I've added that same look to all my clips. May not be the best look for all of them, but it's just a quick grade. It's not really, there's no reason or method behind it, but all the clips are graded, and can move on to deliver. So here in the delivery window, I want to come here and set the in point, and go here, set the out point, and I want to export QuickTime, ProRes 444. I could use a round trip if I wanted to. In this case, I'm going to go none. And so here's some of your options. I just want you to take a look at these really quick. I can set up to render audio or not. I can change the frame rate. I can change the resolution if I wish. But the most important thing is individual source clips or single clip. If I have individual source clips selected, it will render out each one of these as a separate clip. You know, whatever the edit is, each one will get rendered out individually. And the reason that you would do that is if you were round tripping, if you wanted to bring them back in. So you would, of course, you would just use round trip. And then you can go back and export an XML from Davinci and bring that into Final Cut or whatever editing program you're using. And it'll reference these new clips down here as the actual clips for the footage. So they'll be graded clips, and it'll bring it back in as the edit, and you can do further edits and effects, etc. Or if this is your final delivery and you just want to edit this out as or render this out as a single movie, you can choose single clip. There's a bunch of different other options that you have here. We'll cover that later. I just don't want to get you guys overwhelmed because there's a lot of stuff to cover here. But simply, right now, I could render this right now and just say Add Job. Say Continue. If I wanted to render this to a different folder, maybe. Right now, it gave me a warning saying that this was going to overwrite footage. I don't have any footage in the folder that this is set to, so I don't have to really worry about it. But if I did, and I didn't want to overwrite anything I had in that folder, what I could do was I could, right here, render job 2, hit browse, choose a different folder or create a folder and put it into that folder. So that's how that works. And then you just hit start render and it renders the whole thing out. So that is the basic overview of Davinci. Granted, I barely scratched the surface, but do not be intimidated by this. It seems like a lot. It seems like a massive, really complicated system. But we're going to go through it step by step. You're going to get the hang of it really fast, and you're really going to enjoy working in Davinci, I promise you. So move on to the next tutorial and find out more about Davinci. I think the next one up is going to be how to actually work with color gear inside Davinci, which will also explain how to use the gears as nodes or modular layers in the other programs as well. So check that out, and I'll see you there.